Today we're going to be going over the top 10 most inflammatory foods based on omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. This list may surprise you, but let's dive right in. I think many people know about inflammation. They know that a highly processed diet can lead to higher levels of inflammation, which can then literally lead to any dis-ease in the body, whether it's skin rashes, headaches, autoimmune, gut problems, you name it, you can get it with a high inflammation-based diet. And unfortunately, the average American, believe it or not, the average American or average Westerner has an 18-to-1 ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s in their diet. And yes, we need omega-6s, and believe it or not, we need a little bit more omega-6s than we do omega-3s, about a 3-to-1 ratio. But the average American is an 18-to-1 ratio when their blood levels are tested. You can literally run your own levels right at home. I'll share that with you in just a moment. So when I was researching and really looking at the high omega-6s to omega-3s, what I wanted to do was share with you a very straightforward list that I believe is going to surprise many people. And that is because on this list, there's none of the inflammatory factory-based meat. There's none of the non-pastured raised chickens. There's none of the grain-fed cows, right? And there's not even any of the farm-based salmon. So why isn't that on the list? Well, believe it or not, those are in like numbers 11 through 20. But they're not in the top 10. And so what I like to do is be very unbiased in my research, okay, always. And I share with people very straightforward information that they can take action on in their life. This list may surprise you, but let's dive right in. The first one is this, sunflower oil. Now, how did I come up with this list? The list is based on highest omega-6s to lowest omega-3s. So it doesn't mean that it's the highest omega-6 food in the world. What it means is that it has the worst ratio from omega-6s to omega-3s, like a 20-to-1 or an 18-to-1, right? I mentioned previously, average American, 18-to-1. How do they get such a high level of omega-6s? They take in very few omega-3s and they eat a lot of high omega-6 based foods. First one is sunflower oil. And you might say, well, nobody eats sunflower oil. Nobody's pouring sunflower oil on their salad dressing for the most part, right? Well, you're right. They're not. But sunflower oil is added to a lot of the chips and the fried-based foods that are out there. And that's how the sunflower oil is getting into people's diet. This next one, though, you'll see this, well, number 2 and 3. Why don't I just list them? Corn oil and then soybean oil. Why? Tofu, very high in omega-6s. All right, here's the issue though. Soybean oil, concentrated omega-6s. The oils are concentrated and they're also highly inflammatory. They're oxidated based on the whole process of turning them into an oil in the first place. These don't have a lot of antioxidants in the first place. And then when you look at it, corn oil is added to almost everything. Literally, it's a processed food. It's going to have corn syrup, corn oil, same with soybean oil. Soybean oil is in everything from mayonnaise. So I didn't list specific foods, but mayonnaise or margarine would be on this list. Why is margarine not a health food? You know, medical doctors are telling people eat margarine, don't eat butter. Eat margarine, don't eat butter. It makes absolutely no sense. 0 sense because it's loaded with omega-6s and omega-6s are highly inflammatory. So what they're doing is say, don't eat the saturated fat, but eat this super inflammatory margarine instead. It just, again, it makes no sense. And unfortunately, people like in my parents' generation specifically, they listen to the media, they listen to the ads, they listen to their medical doctor. And their medical doctor is not trying to do them wrong, but what happens is they're given poor information. They're not taught nutrition in school. And so what we have is just bad advice running rampant. But margarine, mayonnaise, look at the first ingredient, soybean oil for the most part, corn oil. These things are horrible for your health. The next one is cottonseed oil. Again, almost exclusively omega-6s. Where do you see cotton oil or cottonseed oil? In a lot of the next two, grapeseed oil, I'll stop at grapeseed oil. These have, many of them, a higher smoke point, so they're used in fried-based foods. And I'll do a summary just at the end. Safflower oil. You'll see safflower oil in a bunch of different things. One is that it has a little bit of an antioxidant-based content, which is nice, but it's often used in balance with omega-3s. So this one I see a lot, and I'm not necessarily against it, just like I'm not as against sesame seeds or sesame oil. It's used quite a bit in Ayurvedic medicine, but it's always balanced with an omega-3, and I'll get to that in just a second as well. All right, so I talked about grapeseed oil. A lot of people love grapeseed oil because it has a high smoke point. It's not the reason to use it. There's so many other oils. I'll link them up today at stevencabral.com/2959 on the best oils to cook with if you are going to cook with oils. The number one oil to cook with, most people would never guess, and I go in depth as to why it is. And no, it's not lard, it's not tallow, it's not any of those. I'm not saying that you can't cook with them. What I'm saying is there's one that's even better because of a very powerful antioxidant. I'll link that up again at $29.59. Okay, next up on this list, peanut oil. Haven't already discussed that, but peanuts in general and peanut oil, high omega-6s, lower in the omega-3s. So if you're someone that loves nuts and seeds, peanuts really aren't your first choice. A lot of people say, well, they're a legume anyways. Yes, they are a legume. Peanuts they're really not the best. They're higher in omega-6s, not my favorite choice. I know cashews is also a legume in that list. Those are also fairly high in omega-6s. They're not in my top 10, but certainly they're up there. All right, here are two more that you probably wouldn't think would be on the list. I'm going to save these two, which I've done for last. And here's why. Most people believe that walnuts are a great source of omega-3s. Okay, walnuts are actually fairly high in omega-3s. Here's the interesting thing about walnuts. They're also really high in omega-6s. Now, am I saying never eat walnuts? No, and that's what I'm going to clarify in just one moment. The second one falls in the same category. Healthy food, good food, nutritious for the body, can be used as an anti-parasitic, can be used to help get natural levels of iron into the body. It has levels of zinc, good levels of zinc, called pumpkin seeds. Good for the prostate. Good for humans for the most part. The problem is this, still have a high level of omega-6s to omega-3s. So what did I name on this list? Sunflower oil, corn oil, soybean oil, cottonseed oil, grapeseed oil, safflower oil, peanuts, peanut oil, sesame seeds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds. For me, I'm throwing out the first 5 on this list. I'm never using the sunflower oil, the corn oil, the soybean oil, the cottonseed oil, or the grapeseed oil. No need for that. The others can have their time and place. Walnuts, pumpkins, sesame, maybe some safflower. It doesn't have to be in there, but maybe, right? And some peanuts. Yeah, maybe. Like I'm not going to be totally against peanuts. There's a time and place where you can have some peanuts. It's not a big deal. What really matters is the first 5, no antioxidants really in those. They're super oxidative, very high levels of omega-6s. If you just cut those out, you're going to be doing well. Okay, the next ones, just like any omega-6 food, need to be balanced with omega-3s. Okay, here's the issue. I have worked with many clients on a strict vegan diet. And again, I'm there to support people on any diet they want to be on. You want to be on carnivore? I'll support you. Want to be on keto? I'll support you. Want to be on vegan diet? I'll support you. Do I believe in any of the extremes? No, I don't. I believe in more balance because on a vegan-based diet, you're taking in a lot of omega-6s for the most part. Now, you can balance that if you're conscientious of getting in what? Chia seeds and flax seeds. And yes, some seaweed, things like that are going to have more of your omega-3s. It's more difficult. You need to eat a good amount more, but just think about all the nuts and seeds that you may be eating. If they're not flax and they're not chia, you're going to be getting in quite a bit of omega-6s. How do you balance that then in a just omnivorous-based diet, or you're eating any different really type of food? Well, the way that you balance, because I don't think that you should not be able to eat walnuts or pumpkin seeds or even, peanuts every once in a while, is I would say you need to get in those oily omega-3s. That's what we talk about. That is literally your best source of balancing omega-6s. And because it's always about balance, you're always going to get omega-6s, and that's not an issue. And so let's just say you're, because again, the chicken and the eggs and those types of things, those are in 11 to 20. Almonds, cashews, those are in 11 to 20. So it's like those foods are in there too. The problem is they're exacerbated when they're from grain-fed animals. So like a grain-fed, soybean-fed cow or soy and corn-based fed chickens. And then obviously the eggs that come from that. So all of these then are highly inflammatory. Milk, dairy fed from those things, highly inflammatory. When they're not, if it's a grass-fed, grass-finished cow, pastured chickens, pastured eggs, your wild fish, those are going to help get more omega-3s in your body. Now, do the meat-based products have a higher omega-6s to omega-3s? Yes, but if the animal's raised properly, it's in a proper ratio. Now, how do you tip the scale then to get more omega-3s? The only way that you really do that, honestly and realistically, the only way you're able to do that is through eating fish, hopefully non-high mercury-based fish, and I have a lot of podcasts on that, and or taking omega-3 supplementation. That's really it. That's honestly the only way to do it. I've run well over 10,000 omega-6 to omega-3 inflammation tests, over 10,000. And I can tell you the only people that aren't supplementing with omega-3s, the only way they're able to get to a 3-to-1 ratio is by eating small fish. I'll name them right now and then I'll link up a podcast: sardines, mackerel, anchovies, wild trout, wild salmon. Okay. If they eat those 4 to 5 times a week with the skin, because that's where the predominance of the omega-3 is, they're able to get to that 3-to-1 ratio without supplementation. Everybody else needs about 2 to 3 grams, not a mega dose. They need about 2 soft gels a day of daily omega-3 support. That's what they need. I can't link that up today, but the product that we use at our company and our inside of our functional medicine practice is by Equilife. So I help formulate for that company. You can find it at stephencabral.com/shop. That just takes you over to our functional medicine company, and you'll be able to see the daily omega-3 support there. 2 soft gels a day. Literally, and that will balance you out in terms of your omega-6 to your omega-3s. If you eat a lot of meat and it's not grass-fed, it's not grass-finished, you eat out a lot, take 3 soft gels a day. That's it, maximum 1 per meal. Really easy, or 2 to 3 at one meal, whatever you want to do. That'll balance you out. I take 2 a day. That's typically all that's needed. So today's show was hopefully eye-opening in terms of, oh, I'm not eating sunflower or corn or soybean. Well, you are if you're eating processed foods. That's why we need to look at those labels. How many chips are you eating per day? Are you eating foods that are fried at restaurants? Because they're not using olive oil for the most part. They're not using clean sources of an oil. They are frying in these high smoke points like a grapeseed, a cottonseed, a soybean, a peanut oil. They're frying in those, and they're just loaded then with omega-6s, and really hard to rebalance that. So then if you're feeling the headaches, the migraines, the skin rashes, the low mood, the low energy, remember, it can be from food intake and also from what's added to these foods. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if there's any additional comments. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Any follow-up shows you'd like me to do. And of course, if this show was helpful, do feel free to share it with anyone else you believe it could serve. Take care, everybody. Have an amazing rest of the day. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.